bamboo bar. It could be any island, maybe not too far. Exotic drinks we'd like you to try. Dance away the night at the Tiki Lounge. Welcome to Tiki Lounge. We're now somewhere in the Arroyo Grande foothills at a Woodstock celebration, and I'm here with author and photographer Bill Seavey, who actually took pictures at Woodstock. Bill.
Not really. I've been faking it for 40 years.
No, he really did, folks. He's just got a great sense of humor. So what I want to know is, how did you get there and get close to the stage? Because everybody had a hard time getting there.
You're right about that. I had to fake a press pass from Newsweek magazine. But I was working for Newsweek. It's just they wouldn't send me there. So I faked a press pass and got in front of the stage, and they kept trying to kick me out, but I kept showing them my fake press pass, and it worked.
Well, that's great. You just made do and got in there, and you got some great pictures, which we're going to show some of. What were some of the bands that you really felt like, emulated the whole feeling of Woodstock?
Well, I only got some of the famous artists that first night, and then I started roaming the whole place because I could see it wasn't just about the music. And I saw, Joan Baez, John Sebastian, Richie Havens. I got over a dozen different artists. Yeah.
Wow. And these have never been shown until now, right?
That's correct. On the 25th anniversary of Woodstock, I went back to Newsweek magazine, which, even though I told them I had all this stuff, I was just a photographic intern at the time, and went to Life magazine, and I said, hey, it's the 25th anniversary of Woodstock. You might be interested in these photographs that have never been printed, published, or seen before. Nothing. I later kind of found out, I think, why they were never published because I was a photographic intern, and I think I would have stolen the staff photographer's fire at the time. So they ended up going with Black Star, with this picture agency and all that, because they did publish a bunch of Woodstock photos, but they didn't touch mine.
Wow, so this is going to be a first, folks. We're going to get to see Bill Seavey's photographs today, and we're going to enjoy some music and fun and food, and this is another milestone for Woodstock today, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of shooting for the 50th, I'm trying to actually find somebody. Well, I've already found somebody that wants to do an exhibit in a major museum, and he's actually pitching it right now, but I think the timing is everything. This is the 45th, but the 50th is going to be big, sort of like the Beatles thing, I hope.
Amazing. Well, we're looking forward to seeing your photographs, and thank you so much for coming on Tiki Lounge today and sharing this with us.
That's great. I appreciate it, Merrell. I appreciate it a lot.
Okay.
When love runs high, in this time, give it to me easy, and let me try with pleasured hand to take you in the sun to promised lands, to show you everyone it's the time of the season for loving. What's your name? What's your name? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Is he rich like me? Has he taken any time to show you what you need to live?
one thing I wanted to ask you is, what was it like, Fito, when you went to Woodstock and when you saw what that scene was like? Your first impression when you got there and playing on stage at Woodstock.
The morning of Woodstock, I didn't want to go to the gig.
You did?
I was exhausted. We have been working very hard, and I didn't really know how important it was or what was happening. And my manager actually pulled me out of bed. I quit the band. I said, I'm quitting. I don't want to go. I'm very tired. I don't care. He's telling me, there is 500,000 people there. It's really something. This is the biggest event of history, blah, blah, blah. And, I really didn't care. But as the day went on, of course, it was very hard for us to get there. I remember taking a nap on the floor in the concrete on some hangar in White Kills, New York, in some small town where we had to fly from because it was impossible to drive. That's when, a few minutes later, when I saw the amount of people and the size of the festival, that I was really impressed, and I really felt happy that I actually made it.
Right.
Because I was thinking, this is the gig that I didn't want to come to.
Yeah.
And then I saw it, and I go, fantastic. This has got to be the biggest gig ever.
Yeah.
500,000 people there. And one funny thing that I can tell you, for example, my manager grabbed his camera and put his hand out from the helicopter window and started shooting, the audience. And eventually one of his photos became Ravi Shankar's cover.
Wow.
For the Woodstock album.
Okay, Fito, you've brought us some of that rare footage from Woodstock today.
That's right.
So this has never been seen on television.
Part of this is unknown. It's not being seen. I don't even know how they got a hold of it. Because I know the masters of Woodstock are very well kept in Warner Brothers' vaults. It is very nice, and I hope it works good.
Let's go to that right now. Here's Canned Heat at Woodstock.
Ladies and gentlemen, Canned Heat.
out of the way. I've been dogged around. Well, I've got to roam and find me a brand new.
You're watching Tiki Lounge, and I'm Merrell Fankhauser. And right now, it's my pleasure to have my old friend, drummer Johnny Barbata, on the show, who's played with the Sentinels, the Turtles, the Starship, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Neil Young, and the list goes on and on. Johnny, it's so great to have you on the show and see you today after all these years.
Oh, man, it's great to be here.
We're still here, and we're still rocking and rolling.
Alive and well.
And I was telling you the last time we saw each other was around the end of 1968 at Local 47, the Musicians Union in L.A., picking up some checks for some sessions we did.
Sounds about right.
And I remember you roared out of the parking lot in some kind of a really nice sports car. What was that?
I bought that from Stephanie Powers. It was called a Marcos. Weighed 1800 SGT. It weighed 1,400 pounds. Wow. It looked like a Jag in the front, a Corvette in the middle, and a Ferrari in the back. It was unusual.
See, I thought it was a Ferrari. I couldn't tell what it was.
It looked like one, yeah.
Yeah. So you just finished your autobiography, and when did you start writing it?
About 69 years ago. No, about 5 years ago. Yeah, and just started writing down little blots on a piece of paper, and that would be like become a chapter, and then we kept writing down more chapters. And my wife used to say, "Well, what? You know, you're part of rock and roll history. You really should write a book." And I started thinking, like, "Oh, yeah, she's right." So here we are. It's called The Legendary Life of a Rock Star Drummer. I got stories about there when meeting the Beatles when I was in the Turtles. We got off the plane, there was this white Rolls Royce, and we were looking at each other. I wonder who that's for. And the guy holds up a sign, Turtles. We looked at each other, and we ran into the Rolls Royce, and the guys proceeded to tell us that it's the Beatles own this. They're renting it out to you for a week. Well, that night, we went and had a big party that the record company, London Decca, threw for us, and we were drinking these $400 bottles of French red wine, so we got pretty ripped by the time the night was over. We thought we were just going to go to the hotel and crash. And they said, "Oh, no, we're going to take it to the speakeasy where all the English groups hang out." And they said, "Oh, that'll be cool, all right." So we go there with our entourage. We walk in, the place is packed. And they usher us up to this back room, and there's two tables. And I look over at the bar, and there's Graham Nash having a drink with Paul McCartney. Who else is there? Brian Jones was there, had a blonde on each side of him. Yeah, Brian. And then there was Rod Stewart was there. The guy in the Animals, what's his name?
Eric.
Yeah, Eric Bird. He was there. All these French and English models were all walking around. And then there was Clapton and Hendrix. They were just coming up the ladder. They weren't really famous yet. So we're sitting down having a good time, and all these French models are walking around, and English models. We're like in rock and roll heaven. I look over to the right, there's John Lennon and Ringo Starr, like 3 feet away. So I said to him, "Hey, there they are. Go see if we can go meet them, you know." And we're only 21 years old. So I'm sitting between Lennon and Ringo, and ripped. I didn't know what to say. I was like really nervous, and I realized that they were stoned on acid. And I couldn't believe it. I said, "Oh wow, okay, this is a great topic for conversation." So what happened is we have this roadie, Nicky Navarro, came over, and he tripped and spilled a whole pitcher of beer on John Lennon. He was smoking a cigarette, and I leaned over and said, "Gee, John, I'm sorry about that." "Oh, it's no big deal." At this time, I figured it broke the ice, so I said, "Well, if it wasn't for you guys, it wouldn't be here." He goes, "What do you mean?" "Well, you know, Beatles, Turtles." And he said, "Well, everything we got, we stole from Chuck Berry."
Yeah, and then I heard the name sort of was a spin-off of the Crickets by Buddy Holly. I know they loved Buddy Holly, too. I got to meet John at Harry Nilsson's house in the late 70s, and that was a fun time. I had to play a song for him. I'd known Harry before. Harry and I wrote for a publishing company in L.A., and I'd known him for quite a few years before he got connected with the Beatles, and he invited me to this party, but he didn't tell me John was going to be there. And I got a little nervous and a little stage fright, and I remember my lips started twitching. And then after I sang the song, he asked me, what inspired that. And then we started talking about songwriting and how we were both baffled how you'll just get an idea for a song and you don't know where it comes from. And John said it was almost like automatic writing. You'd have to write it down real quick or it'd get away from you and you'd forget it. Exactly. And that's what I do when cassettes got real popular. I always had a little cassette machine. So your book is full of pictures and history of all the way starting out. Let's go back to the Sentinels when I first knew you, and you were one of the first bands. I remember one time we were playing somewhere, and you guys backed me up on a couple of songs. And, of course, Tommy Nunes and I have been friends for years, and I had him on my satellite show back in the 90s, California Music. And... so Latinia. What a wonderful surf song that was, and your drum part on that, I loved it.
Yeah, that was back in the days of the Ventures and the Champs and the Revels.
Yeah, the Revels, who I played with, that did Church Key, yeah. And Latinia was your big hit, and you guys went out on a tour as the Sentinels, and I remember Lee Michaels came in the picture later playing keyboard. Did he go on one of those tours with you or not?
Yeah, toward the end, he was playing with the show. Mm-hmm. And we traveled all over in the very end. Then everybody got drafted, and I went to L.A. with Lee and played in the Action Club with a guy called Joe Scott Hill. We made an album called L.A. Getaway. We had Dr. John Booker T, Leon Russell on keyboards, premier keyboard player. Yeah, it's a great album. It's a blues rock album. And Paul Rothschild produced it. He produced Janis Joplin and the Doors, and he thought it was the best album he ever made. So here I am in New York. Ahmet Ertegun's got his arm around me. I'm in his apartment in Manhattan, and he says, "Oh, I finally got you on your label." I said, "Well, yeah, what about L.A. Getaway? Are you going to put that out?" And he said, "Well, Joel's with Canned Heat. Chris is like the hottest bass player in Hollywood, and you went with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young." He says, "I can't put this out because you guys aren't together." And I said, "Well, look at it like it's the cream, Ahmet. You put it out, and we'll get back together and play." He wasn't buying it.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah.
It's the kind of album everybody knows about it in the business, but it never made it because we weren't together.
I remember people saw you on the Ed Sullivan Show with the Turtles and your big hit, Happy Together. And from that point on, and you probably know this and you're probably tired of hearing it, oh yeah, the drummer that does that, twirling his sticks and doesn't miss a beat. Everybody thought that was so cool, and my drummer, Art, who you met, remembers you from that too. And then I'd tell people, oh yeah, I know that guy. We lived in the same towns together, and he played in a surf band. They go, oh yeah, sure, right, Merrell.
Yeah, well, we were classified as a surf band. We really weren't. We were really an R&B blues rock band, and Latinia really is like a Latin song, but somehow it was an instrumental, and they put us in that surf category, which was cool with us. We did all the surf shows,
Yeah. I've got an old poster I have to show you after we finish the interview from the Deauville Castle Club in Santa Monica, and we all played on that bill. And well, good, you remember it. I can't remember it.
I remember the balconies all around the place.
Okay, I do remember that, but I can't remember anything about the gig.
Well, it was a few years ago.
Yeah. And then I told you Pete Sears and I have been good friends for quite a few years.
Good keyboard player, too.
Yeah.
So from the Turtles, I went out to get with the Airplane and the Starship, and I was the only drummer to be in both groups. And the Starship... Miracles was the biggest, and Red Octopus was the biggest album they've ever had of all the albums they put out, and that was really a good run. I was with those guys for like 5 years and 5 albums and a bunch of tours and a lot of hit singles.
Yeah.
Before that, of course, I went with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, which at the time they were the biggest group in the world. And David Geffen calls me in his office and says, "Hey, there's this new group. They want you to be the drummer, and they want your bass player friend Chris Setras." "Well, who are they?" He says, "No, just a minute." He says, "They're going to be big and they want you." "Well, who are they, Dave?" He says, "They're called the Eagles." I go, the Eagles, never heard of them. Some new up-and-coming group. I tell you, I'm the biggest group in the world. I'm getting ready to do Neil Young's solo albums. I mean, how much bigger can it get? That's one of the stories in the book.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, the Starship, you know, and Pete Sears and I, we did an album with the drummer Ed Cassidy from Spirit. And Pete played on a bunch of songs on that. He played keyboard on that. And he's going to be coming down here at some point to play on our back lot stage.
Who is?
Pete.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I knew his bass player, Al Stahaley from Spirit, was a good friend of mine. We actually tried to put a band together called California years ago, but that never got off the ground either. That was a good one, though.
Yeah, well, we're lucky that we're still here and doing it. And, you know, so many of our friends now have passed on and gone away. And
I played on over 100 albums with people like Dr. John, Booker T, Ry Cooder, Lee Michaels, Johnny Rivers, the Everly Brothers, Linda Ronstadt. What's that guy in Loving Spoonfield? John Sebastian. Yeah, a lot of people like that. And did over 100 albums and 20 hit singles. And I was pretty fortunate to be part of the studio musicians. They're considered to be the cream of the crop. Every 10 years, a new batch of them comes in, but they're the ones that are always making the records, and everybody wants to take them on the road and use them in the studio. It's a pretty, you know, privileged thing to be part of that thing. You know, that's why I got to make 100 albums and play with all these different musicians, and it's all in the book.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll have to get that book, and we'll put your website up here on the screen. And yeah, I got to play with a group of those studio musicians: Carol Kay, Larry Knechtel, Al Casey, Jim Gordon on drums.
Yeah, I know him. I got a good story about that one too, but that's another story. But the good story is Neil Young calls me up and says, will you come out and play out on my tour? He said, they just fired Kenny Buttrey. I go, what was wrong? He says, he wasn't playing the bass drum loud enough on Heart of Gold, you know, boom, boom, bap. So,
well, compress it and turn it up.
Well, you know, I said, well, when do you want me out? He says, how about tomorrow in Baton Rouge? I go, tomorrow? Okay, Neil. So I fly in the airplane, get down there. Matter of fact, they held the plane. They shut the door as soon as I got in the plane. They took off. And I had a 20-minute rehearsal and had to play an hour and 45-minute set. That's pressure. I mean, you know, with Neil Young. I knew some of the songs, I didn't know all of them. So I just watched the bass player and Neil, and I didn't miss a lick. I got them all right. Just like a free, all the roadies going, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? I said, I was just paying attention, you know.
That's what you got to do, pay attention. I played with Willie Nelson. He doesn't even tell you the key of the song and just starts it out, and you got to figure it out on your own. Well, Johnny, it's just wonderful seeing you after all of these years and everything, and we're going to show some video clips after this interview. Do you have any musical projects you're working on now?
Oh, my wife and I are putting together, we have 2 albums out called California and Oklahoma, and we're piecing together on some other material that we have. This is going to be a rock album of all our rock stuff. It'll be coming out here pretty soon. And what else am I doing? Well, besides this book tour, it's a 30-day book tour, and I'm doing that and trying to put together a horn band, you know, a guitar, bass, drum, keyboard, trumpet, trombone, sax. It'll be like an R&B, blues, you know, Last Night, remember all that kind of stuff? Yeah, all that instrumental stuff. Trying to do something like that would be really fun.
Wow. Okay, well, you'll have to let us know when that's out, and we'll give it a mention here on Tiki Lounge.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Johnny.
Thanks so much for having me.
Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight. So happy together. If I should call you up, invest a dime, and you say you belong to me, and use my mind, imagine how the world could be so very fine, so happy together.